Satisficing. Protocols, they know when to stop optimizing and when good enough actually is good enough, preventing over-optimization. In low-packed areas, recovery integration, they build recovery and restoration into their optimization protocols. Understanding that sustainable improvement requires sustainable practices. Joy. Preservation. They maintain practices and perspectives that keep optimization enjoyable rather than burdensome. Understanding that intrinsic motivation is more sustainable than external pressure. The compound effect of obsessive optimization is staggering. Elite performers who consistently seek small improvements over long periods achieve results that seem impossible to those who only make sporadic efforts at change. This optimization obsession also creates a competitive moat. While competitors might copy obvious strategies or techniques, they rarely have the discipline to implement the detailed optimization protocols that create elite performers. True advantages. The research shows that the highest performers in every field share this characteristic. They never stop trying to get better. They're never satisfied with their current level of performance, no matter how impressive it might seem to others. They've made improvement itself their greatest skill. This isn't about being driven by insecurity or external validation. Elite performers optimize because they're intrinsically motivated by the process of becoming. They understand that human potential is essentially unlimited and that every day offers opportunities to discover new capabilities. Asterisk, the most counterintuitive secret of elite performance is this: the best performers in the world are also the best at strategic recovery. While average performers believe that success comes from grinding harder and longer, elite minds understand that peak performance is impossible without systematic restoration. This isn't about work-life balance, it's about performance optimization. Through strategic rest, elite performers don't recover despite their ambition. They recover because of it. They've discovered that the right kind of rest actually enhances performance capacity rather than detracting from it. The neuroscience behind this principle is revolutionary. During periods of strategic rest, your brain doesn't shut down. It engages in crucial maintenance and enhancement processes that are impossible during active performance. Memory consolidation, sleep, and specific types of rest convert short-term learning into long-term memory and skill integration. Elite performers literally improve while they sleep because their brains are processing and organizing the day's learning. Neuroplasticity. Enhancement. Rest periods trigger the growth of new neural connections and the strengthening of existing pathways. Without adequate recovery, the brain can't physically adapt to support higher levels of performance. Creative problem solving. The brain's default mode network, which activates during rest, is responsible for breakthrough insights and creative solutions. Many elite performers report their best ideas emerge during deliberate recovery periods. Stress hormone regulation. Chronic performance without recovery leads to dysregulated stress hormone production, which impairs decision-making, learning, and physical performance. Strategic rest resets these systems. Elite performers have developed sophisticated recovery protocols that go far beyond simply sleeping more. Active recovery. This involves engaging in activities that restore energy while maintaining some level of engagement. Elite performers might use light exercise, skill practice at reduced intensity, or engaging hobbies as active recovery. Passive recovery. This includes complete rest from performance-related activities. Elite performers protect time for genuine relaxation, understanding that the brain needs periods of true disengagement to restore its capacity. Social recovery. Human connection and positive social interactions have measurable restorative effects on stress hormones and mental energy. Elite performers cultivate relationships that energize rather than drain them. Environmental recovery. Elite performers design environments that promote restoration. This might include spaces that reduce sensory stimulation, natural environments that restore attention, or locations associated with positive emotions. Spiritual recovery. This involves connecting with sources of meaning and purpose that transcend immediate performance goals. Whether through meditation, religious practice, or philosophical reflection. This type of recovery restores motivation and perspective. The strategic timing of recovery is as important as the recovery itself. Micro-recovery. Elite performers integrate brief recovery periods throughout their performance sessions. This might include 60-second breathing breaks, short walks between intensive work sessions, or momentary attention shifts. Daily recovery. They protect specific periods each day for restoration activities. Treating recovery time as non-negotiable. Appointments with themselves. Weekly recovery. Elite performers typically include longer recovery periods in their weekly schedules, allowing for more complete restoration and preparation for the next performance cycle. Seasonal recovery. They plan extended recovery periods aligned with natural cycles or performance seasons, using these times for reflection, planning, and comprehensive restoration. Elite performers also understand the principle of recovery debt, the idea that inadequate recovery creates a cumulative deficit that eventually forces dramatic performance degradation. They monitor their recovery status as carefully as they monitor their performance metrics. Recovery monitoring includes physiological indicators, heart rate variability, sleep quality, resting heart rate, and other biomarkers that indicate recovery status. Psychological indicators, mood state, motivation levels, stress perception, and cognitive function assessments. Performance indicators, reaction time, decision-making quality, skill execution, precision, and other performance variables that reflect recovery adequacy. Perhaps most importantly, elite performers have developed what researchers call recovery self-efficacy, the confidence that they can restore their energy and performance capacity through strategic rest. This eliminates the anxiety that many people feel about taking time off, allowing them to recover more completely. They also understand that different types of performance stress require different recovery approaches. Physical recovery. For physically demanding activities, recovery focuses on tissue repair, energy replenishment, and nervous system restoration. Cognitive recovery. For mentally demanding work, recovery emphasizes attention restoration, decision-making capacity renewal, and creative energy regeneration. Emotional recovery. For emotionally challenging situations, recovery involves stress, hormone regulation, social connection, and meaning-making activities. Elite performers have also mastered the art of preventive recovery, implementing restoration strategies before they become necessary, rather than waiting until they're exhausted or burned out. The research is clear. Elite performers who prioritize strategic recovery maintain higher average performance levels and demonstrate greater longevity in their careers compared to those who prioritize volume over restoration. This creates a paradox that confuses many observers. Elite performers often appear to be working less intensively than their struggling competitors, yet they achieve superior results. The secret is that their recovery protocols allow them to perform at higher quality levels during their active periods. Recovery isn't a sign of weakness or lack of commitment. It's a performance technology that amplifies every other aspect of elite achievement. The performers who last longest and achieve most are those who've learned to recover as strategically as they perform. Elite performers have a fundamentally different relationship with emotions than most people. While average performers are often controlled by their feelings, making decisions based on momentary emotional states, avoiding challenges that trigger discomfort, or becoming paralyzed by fear and anxiety, elite minds have developed what researchers call emotional sovereignty. This doesn't mean they're emotionally numb or suppressed. In fact, Elite performers often experience emotions more intensely than others. The difference is that they've learned to use emotions as information and energy, rather than being controlled by them as dictates and limitations. The neuroscience of emotional mastery reveals that elite performers have developed enhanced connections between their prefrontal cortex, the rational brain, and their limbic system, the emotional brain. This neural integration allows them to experience emotions fully while maintaining cognitive control over their responses. Elite emotional mastery is built on several key principles. Emotional granularity. While most people experience emotions in broad categories, good, bad, happy, sad, excited, nervous, elite performers have developed precise emotional vocabulary that allows them to identify subtle emotional states and respond appropriately. They might distinguish between frustration, irritation, disappointment, and anger, each requiring different optimization strategies. Emotional usefulness. Elite performers evaluate emotions based on their utility for performance rather than their immediate pleasantness. They might welcome anxiety before a big presentation because it sharpens their focus, even though the feeling is uncomfortable. Emotional timing. They understand that emotions have natural life cycles and that trying to force emotional changes often backfires. Instead, they work with emotional rhythms, using techniques to optimize timing rather than forcing immediate emotional shifts. Emotional energy. Elite performers treat emotions as energy that can be channeled toward performance goals. Anger can fuel determination, fear can enhance preparation, and excitement can boost creativity when properly directed. Asterisk. The specific emotional skills that elite performers master include anxiety optimization. Instead of trying to eliminate anxiety, elite performers transform it into heightened alertness and preparation energy. They understand that some anxiety is optimal for peak performance and have techniques for calibrating anxiety levels. Frustration channeling. When things don't go as planned, elite performers convert frustration into problem-solving energy rather than allowing it to become destructive anger or discouragement. Fear processing. They've developed systematic approaches to processing fear that allow them to extract useful information. What am I not prepared for? What skills do I need to develop? While preventing fear from paralyzing action. Confidence calibration. Elite performers understand that confidence should be calibrated to competence. They neither inflate their confidence beyond their abilities nor underestimate their capabilities. They work to align confidence with realistic assessment of their skills and preparation. Motivation sustainability. They've learned to maintain motivation during long periods without external validation or immediate results, drawing energy from internal sources rather than depending on external recognition. Elite performers use specific techniques for emotional optimization, emotional preloading before challenging situations. They deliberately cultivate emotional states that support peak performance. This might involve visualization, music, physical movement, or specific thinking patterns that generate optimal emotional energy, real-time emotional adjustment during performance. They monitor their emotional state and make micro-adjustments as needed. They might use breathing techniques to reduce anxiety, positive self-talk to maintain confidence, or visualization to sustain motivation. Emotional recovery. After intense performance periods, they have specific protocols for processing and recovering from emotional intensity, preventing emotional burnout, and preparing for future challenges. Emotional learning. They treat every emotional experience as data, analyzing what triggered specific emotional responses and how those responses affected their performance. Perhaps most importantly, elite performers have developed emotional anti-fragility, the ability to grow stronger from emotional challenges rather than just surviving them. They seek out emotionally challenging situations because they've learned that emotional growth accelerates performance development. They also understand the social dimension of emotional mastery. Asterisk emotional contagion management they're aware of. How others' emotions affect them and have strategies for maintaining optimal emotional states, even in emotionally chaotic environments. Emotional leadership. They understand how their emotional state influences others and use this awareness to create positive emotional environments that enhance collective performance. Emotional boundaries. They've learned to be empathetic and connected while maintaining emotional boundaries that prevent them from being overwhelmed by others' emotional states. Asterisk the development of emotional mastery requires specific training, mindfulness practice. This develops awareness of emotional states as they arise, creating space between emotional triggers and responses. Cognitive reframing. They practice interpreting emotional situations in ways that support rather than undermine their performance goals. Exposure therapy. They deliberately expose themselves to emotionally challenging situations in controlled environments, building emotional resilience and response flexibility. Emotional experimentation. They test different emotional regulation strategies to discover what works best for their unique psychology and performance demands. Elite performers also understand that emotional mastery is ongoing development rather than a fixed achievement. They continue refining their emotional skills throughout their careers, adapting their approaches as they encounter new challenges and as their performance demands evolve. The research shows that emotional intelligence is one of the strongest predictors of peak performance across domains. Elite performers who master their emotional lives gain access to psychological resources that remain unavailable to those controlled by their feelings. This emotional sovereignty becomes a massive competitive advantage because it allows elite performers to maintain optimal function regardless of external emotional pressures. Internal emotional states, or the emotional chaos that often surrounds high-stakes performance situations. Asterisk elite performers don't just set goals. They engineer visions so compelling that their entire psychology becomes organized around achieving them. While most people have vague wishes or generic objectives, elite minds have developed crystal clear, emotionally charged visions that function as psychological magnets, pulling them toward extraordinary achievement. The neuroscience behind visioning reveals why this practice is so powerful. When you repeatedly visualize specific future scenarios with emotional intensity, your brain begins to treat these imagined futures as memories. This activates the same neural networks that guide behavior based on past experience, essentially programming your subconscious to move toward your envisioned future. Elite performers understand that vision isn't just positive thinking, it's strategic psychology. A properly constructed vision serves multiple performance functions. Motivation generation. A compelling vision creates sustained motivation that transcends temporary setbacks, daily frustrations, or external circumstances. Elite performers draw energy from their future vision when present circumstances might otherwise discourage them. Decision-making. Filter. Every choice becomes simpler when filtered through a clear vision. Elite performers evaluate options by asking, does this move me toward my vision or away from it? This eliminates decision fatigue and prevents distraction by irrelevant opportunities. Resource, Cation Guide. Vision provides a framework for investing time, energy, and attention. Elite performers align their resource allocation with their long-term vision rather than responding to immediate pressures or random opportunity development. Vision shapes identity by providing a clear picture of who you're becoming. Elite performers don't just have goals, they have a clear sense of the person they're evolving into, which guides their daily behaviors and choices. The components of elite-level vision construction include sensory richness. Elite performers create visions that engage all 5 senses. They don't just imagine achieving their goals, they visualize exactly what success will look, sound, feel, smell, and taste like. This sensory detail makes the vision more neurologically compelling. Emotional intensity, they connect powerful. Emotions to their visions, understanding that emotion is the fuel that powers sustained action. They imagine not just what they'll achieve, but how achieving it will make them feel and what it will mean to them. Specific detail instead of generic success imagery. Elite performers visualize specific scenarios with precise details. They imagine particular moments, specific achievements, and exact circumstances of their success. Process integration. They don't just envision end results. They visualize the process of achieving their goals. They imagine themselves executing the daily actions, making the necessary sacrifices, and overcoming predictable obstacles. Values alignment. Elite performers ensure their visions align with their core values and authentic desires rather than externally imposed expectations or social pressures. Elite performers use sophisticated visioning techniques. Future memory creation. They practice recalling their future achievements as if they were memories, creating neural pathways that guide current behavior toward envisioned outcomes. Multiple timeline visualization. They create detailed visions for different time horizons to 30 days, 90 days, 1 year, 5 years, ensuring that their short-term actions align with long-term aspirations. Obstacle integration. Instead of creating unrealistically positive visions, they imagine overcoming specific challenges and setbacks mentally, rehearsing resilience and problem-solving. Environmental visualization. They envision the environments where their success will unfold, including the physical spaces, the people present, and the broader context of their achievements. Identity, visualize themselves, embodying the characteristics, skills, and mindset of their future successful self using vision to guide personal development. The implementation of elite visioning requires systematic practice, daily visualization. Elite performers engage in regular visualization sessions, typically spending 10 to 20 minutes, daily mentally rehearsing their future success and the path to achieving it. Vision boarding. Many create visual representations of their goals using images, words, and symbols that reinforce their vision during their daily environment. Written vision statements. They craft detailed written descriptions of their envisioned future, reading and refining these regularly to maintain clarity and emotional connection. Guided imagery. Some work with coaches or use recorded guidance to enhance the depth and effectiveness of their visualization practice. Vision sharing. They selectively share their visions with supportive individuals who can provide accountability and encouragement. Elite performers also understand the dynamic nature of vision. Vision evolution. They regularly review and refine their visions as they grow and circumstances change, ensuring their future targets remain challenging yet achievable. Vision updating. As they achieve certain elements of their vision, they expand and elevate their future goals, maintaining the psychological pull toward continued growth. Vision flexibility. While maintaining core vision elements, they remain flexible about specific paths and timing, adapting their approach while preserving their ultimate direction. Asterisk. The research shows that elite performers who engage in systematic visioning achieve their goals at significantly higher rates than those who rely on willpower alone. Visualization literally rewires the brain to support goal achievement by enhancing motivation. Clear visions provide emotional fuel for sustained effort, improving focus. Specific targets help filter distractions and maintain attention on relevant activities, increasing confidence. Mental rehearsal of success builds self-efficacy and reduces performance anxiety. Optimizing strategy. Visualizing the path to success helps identify necessary resources and potential obstacles, accelerating learning. Mental practice supplements physical practice, speeding skill development. Perhaps most importantly, elite performers understand that vision without action is fantasy, but action without vision is aimless. They combine compelling future imagery with systematic daily behaviors, creating a powerful synergy between inspiration and implementation. The vision advantage of elite performers isn't just about goal setting, it's about psychological architecture. They've learned to use the power of imagination to organize their entire mental and behavioral system around achieving extraordinary outcomes. Elite performers have a fundamentally different relationship with learning and skill development than most people. While average performers often view learning as something that happens automatically through experience or occasional training, elite minds treat skill development as a sophisticated science that can be optimized, accelerated, and systematically refined. This mastery mindset is built on several revolutionary principles that separate elite learners from casual practitioners. Learning how to learn, elite performers are meta-learners who study the learning process itself. They understand cognitive science, memory formation, skill acquisition, and performance psychology. They don't just practice, they optimize their practice methodology. Deliberate practice, while most people confuse activity with progress. Elite performers engage in what researchers call deliberate practice, focused, systematic training specifically designed to improve performance. This isn't just repetition, it's strategic skill development with continuous feedback and adjustment. Error-seeking, instead of avoiding mistakes, elite performers actively seek out their weaknesses and errors. They understand that the edge of competence, where mistakes happen, is where the most rapid learning occurs. Systematic deconstruction. Elite performers break down complex skills into component parts, master each element separately, then integrate them into fluid performance. They don't try to learn everything at once. Progressive overload, just as athletes progressively increase physical challenges. Elite performers systematically increase the difficulty of their skill challenges, ensuring continuous growth rather than plateau. Asterisk, the neuroscience of elite learning reveals several key principles that peak performers leverage, myelin development. Repeated practice of specific skills literally wraps neural pathways in myelin, a fatty substance that increases signal transmission speed. Elite performers understand this and structure their practice to maximize productive myelination, neuroplasticity, optimization. They know that the brain remains changeable throughout life and use specific techniques to enhance neuroplasticity, including proper sleep, exercise, nutrition, and stress management. Asterisk, spaced repetition instead of cramming. Elite performers use scientifically proven spacing intervals to optimize long-term retention and skill consolidation. Interleaving. They mix different skills or concepts within practice sessions rather than focusing on one element at a time, which enhances learning transfer and adaptability. Testing effect. Elite performers regularly test their skills under challenging conditions rather than just practicing in comfortable environments. Elite performers use sophisticated learning strategies, mental models. They develop frameworks for understanding how their domain works, allowing them to see patterns and principles that guide decision-making and skill application. Chunking. They organize information and skills into meaningful chunks that can be processed more efficiently, allowing them to handle greater complexity. Cross-training. They study related fields and disciplines to gain insights that enhance their primary domain performance. Coach and mentor networks. They systematically seek out expert guidance rather than trying to figure everything out independently. Performance analysis. They meticulously analyze their performance through video review, data analysis, and expert feedback to identify improvement opportunities. The motivation systems of elite learners are also unique. Process orientation. They find satisfaction in the learning process itself rather than requiring external validation or immediate results. Growth identity. They define themselves as learners and improvers rather than as fixed entities with static abilities. Challenge seeking. They actively pursue challenges that stretch their abilities rather than staying in comfortable competence zones. Failure reframing. They view failure as information and opportunity, rather than as judgment on their worth or potential. Long-term perspective. They maintain motivation during extended periods of practice without immediate payoff. Understanding that mastery requires time, investment. Elite performers also understand the physical and environmental factors that optimize. Learning, energy management. They practice when their energy and attention are at peak levels, rather than treating practice as something to fit into leftover time. Environmental design. They create practice environments that minimize distractions and maximize focus and learning effectiveness. Recovery, integration. They understand that learning consolidation happens during rest periods and prioritize sleep and recovery as part of their skill development process. Nutrition and hydration. They optimize their physical state to support cognitive function and learning capacity. The social dimension of elite learning includes learning communities. They surround themselves with other serious learners who challenge and inspire continued growth. Teaching others. They understand that teaching accelerates their own learning by forcing deeper understanding and retention. Feedback seeking. They actively solicit honest feedback from coaches, peers, and mentors rather than avoiding potentially uncomfortable input. Collaboration. They engage in collaborative learning that exposes them to different perspectives and approaches. Perhaps most importantly, elite performers understand that different stages of skill development require different learning approaches. Beginner stage. Focus on fundamental technique, basic pattern recognition, and establishing correct habits. Intermediate stage. Emphasize error detection and correction, strategy development, and performance under varied conditions. Advanced stage. Concentrate on fine-tuning, innovation, and maintaining peak performance under pressure. Expert stage. Focus on continued innovation, teaching others, and pushing the boundaries of what's possible in their domain. Elite performers also recognize that mastery is not a destination, but a continuous journey. They maintain beginner's mind even as they achieve expert status, staying curious, humble, and committed to continued growth. Asterisk, the research confirms that individuals who approach learning with elite mindsets achieve higher levels of performance faster and maintain their capabilities longer than those who rely on talent alone or casual practice methods. This mastery mindset creates a massive competitive advantage because it ensures continuous improvement even after others plateau. While competitors rest on their achievements or assume they've learned enough, elite performers continue evolving, adapting, and refining their capabilities. The difference between good and great often comes down to the quality of the learning process rather than the quantity of practice time. Elite performers who master the art of learning itself gain the ability to continuously upgrade their capabilities throughout their careers. Elite performers understand something that escapes most people. Individual excellence is amplified exponentially when combined with masterful social influence. The highest achievers in every field aren't just technically superior. They've mastered the psychology of human interaction, enabling them to inspire, influence, and lead others toward collective excellence. This isn't about manipulation or political maneuvering. Elite social performance is about understanding human psychology so deeply that you can create environments where everyone performs at their highest level while achieving your own objectives. The neuroscience of social influence reveals that humans are fundamentally wired for connection and tribal cooperation. Elite performers leverage this biological programming to create what researchers call positive influence, the ability to shape others' behavior in ways that benefit everyone involved. Elite communication mastery. Peak performers have developed communication skills that go far beyond basic speaking and listening. They understand the psychological mechanisms that make messages compelling, memorable, and actionable. Emotional contagion control. They recognize that emotions spread rapidly through social networks and have learned to deliberately cultivate and transmit emotional states that enhance group performance. Trust architecture. Elite performers systematically build trust through consistency, competence, and character demonstration. Understanding that trust is the foundation of all effective influence. Value creation. They approach every social interaction by asking, how can I create value for this person, rather than what can I get from this interaction? The specific social skills that elite performers master include active listening. They listen not just to respond, but to understand deeply, making others feel heard and valued while gathering crucial information about motivations, concerns, and opportunities. Strategic questioning. They use sophisticated questioning techniques to guide others toward insights and conclusions rather than trying to impose their viewpoints directly. Narrative mastery. Elite performers understand that humans think in stories and have developed the ability to craft compelling narratives that make their ideas memorable and persuasive. Nonverbal expertise. They've mastered body language, vocal tonality, and spatial dynamics to ensure their nonverbal communication supports and amplifies their verbal messages. Contextual adaptation. They adjust their communication style, energy, level, and approach based on their audience's personality, values, and current emotional state. Elite performers use specific influence strategies. Reciprocity. They lead with value creation, understanding that humans have a strong psychological drive to return favors and maintain balanced relationships. Social proof. They demonstrate that their ideas and approaches are validated by others whom their audience respects and admires. Authority. They establish credibility through demonstrated competence, relevant experience, and consistent results rather than relying on titles or positions. Consistency. They help others see how their proposed actions align with values and commitments that the person has already expressed. Scarcity. They highlight unique opportunities and limited availability when appropriate. Understanding that perceived scarcity increases psychological value. Liking. They find genuine common ground and shared values. Understanding that people are more influenced by those they like and trust. The leadership dimension of elite social performance includes vision casting. Elite leaders paint compelling pictures of possible futures that inspire others to commit their best efforts toward shared objectives. Culture creation. They understand that organizational culture emerges from the behaviors that are modeled, measured, and rewarded, and they systematically shape culture through their daily actions. Talent development. They see developing others' capabilities as a force multiplier that enhances their own effectiveness while creating loyalty and engagement. Decision-making transparency. They help others understand not just what decisions are made but why, building trust and teaching others to make similar quality decisions. Conflict resolution. They approach conflicts as opportunities to strengthen relationships and improve outcomes rather than as problems to be avoided. Elite performers also master the group dynamics that determine collective performance. Team chemistry. They understand the psychological factors that create high-performing teams and actively cultivate positive group dynamics. Role optimization. They help team members understand how their unique strengths contribute to collective success. Maximizing individual engagement and group effectiveness. Communication systems. They establish clear, efficient communication protocols that ensure information flows effectively throughout the organization. Accountability culture. They create environments where people hold themselves and each other accountable to high standards without creating fear or blame. Innovation. Encouragement. They foster psychological safety that encourages creative thinking and intelligent risk-taking. The social intelligence of elite performers extends to network development. They systematically build relationships with individuals who can provide knowledge, opportunities, and support while offering value in return. Stakeholder management. They identify all parties who can impact their success and develop. Strategies for aligning interests and managing relationships. Reputation management. They understand that reputation is built through consistent actions over time and actively manage how they're perceived by important stakeholders. Coalition building. They create alliances and partnerships that amplify their capabilities and extend their influence beyond what's possible through individual effort alone. Perhaps most importantly, elite performers understand that social performance is ultimately about service. The most influential people are those who consistently help others achieve their goals while advancing their own objectives. This creates a positive feedback loop where success builds on itself through strengthened relationships and expanded opportunities. The research shows that social skills often become the limiting factor for otherwise talented individuals. Technical competence might get you in the game, but social performance determines how high you can rise and how much impact you can create. Elite performers invest in developing their social capabilities with the same intensity they bring to developing their technical skills. They study psychology, practice communication techniques, seek feedback on their interpersonal effectiveness, and continuously refine their ability to work with and through others. This social mastery becomes increasingly important as careers advance. The higher you rise in any field, the more your success depends on your ability to influence others, build teams, and create collective achievement that exceeds what any individual could accomplish alone. Elite performers don't just excel at executing existing strategies, they consistently generate innovative solutions that redefine what's possible in their fields. While most people rely on conventional approaches and incremental improvements, elite minds have developed systematic methods for breakthrough thinking that creates genuine competitive advantages. This innovation capacity isn't about creativity for its own sake. It's about strategic creativity that produces practical solutions to complex problems. Elite performers understand that in rapidly changing environments, the ability to think beyond current paradigms often determines who thrives and who becomes obsolete. The neuroscience of innovation reveals that breakthrough ideas emerge from specific brain states and cognitive processes that can be cultivated and optimized. Default mode network activation. Revolutionary insights often occur when the brain's default mode network is active during rest, meditation, or low-intensity activities. Elite performers create conditions that activate this network systematically. Cross-domain. Pattern recognition frequently involves combining patterns from different fields or disciplines. Elite performers expose themselves to diverse knowledge domains to increase their pattern recognition capability. Constraint relaxation. Breakthrough thinking requires temporarily suspending limiting assumptions. Elite performers have developed techniques for identifying and relaxing cognitive constraints that prevent innovative solutions. Divergent convergent. Cycling. The innovation process alternates between divergent thinking, generating many possibilities, and convergent thinking, evaluating and refining ideas. Elite performers master both modes and know when to apply each. Elite performers use specific strategies to enhance their innovation capacity. Cross-pollination. They systematically study fields outside their domain to import successful principles and adapt them to their context. They ask, how do other industries solve similar problems? First principles thinking. Instead of accepting conventional wisdom, they break problems down to fundamental principles and reason up from basic truths. This often reveals solution paths that others miss. Constraint reframing. They view limitations as design challenges rather than insurmountable obstacles, often discovering that constraints actually stimulate more creative solutions. Future backwards. They imagine ideal future states and work backwards to identify what would need to be true for those scenarios to become reality. Assumption challenging. They systematically question every assumption underlying current approaches, asking what if the opposite were true, Or what if this constraint didn't exist? The environmental conditions that elite performers create for innovation include diverse input sources. They expose themselves to wide-ranging information sources, understanding that breakthrough insights often come from unexpected connections between disparate ideas. Psychological safety. They create mental environments where wild ideas can be explored without judgment. Understanding that most innovations initially sound impractical or impossible. Time for reflection. They protect unstructured thinking time. Recognizing that insights often emerge during periods of relaxed contemplation rather than intense focus. Collaboration with diverse thinkers. They engage with people who think differently than they do, using diversity of perspective to stimulate new approaches. Rapid prototyping. They test ideas quickly and cheaply rather than overanalyzing them. Understanding that learning through experimentation accelerates innovation. Elite performers also understand the psychological barriers to innovation and have developed specific techniques to overcome them. Fear of failure. They reframe failure as learning and view unsuccessful experiments as valuable data rather than personal shortcomings. Expertise trap. They remain intellectually humble despite their accomplishments. Understanding that expertise can sometimes prevent them from seeing new possibilities. Confirmation bias. They actively seek disconfirming evidence for their ideas and invite others to challenge their assumptions. Functional fixedness. They practice seeing familiar objects and concepts in new ways. Breaking free from conventional usage patterns. Social conformity. They maintain intellectual independence while remaining open to others' ideas, avoiding both groupthink and isolation. The implementation of innovative ideas requires specific skills that elite performers master. Stakeholder alignment. They understand how to present innovative ideas in ways that address stakeholders' concerns and demonstrate value. Asterisk. Resource acquisition. They develop compelling cases for investing resources in unproven concepts, often starting with minimal viable experiments. Resistance management. They anticipate and prepare for resistance to new ideas, developing strategies for overcoming organizational and psychological inertia. Iteration and refinement. They view initial implementations as starting points for continuous improvement rather than finished products. Scaling strategies. They understand how to evolve innovative solutions from small experiments to large-scale implementations. Elite performers also recognize different types of innovation and apply appropriate strategies for each. Incremental innovation. Continuous improvement of existing solutions through systematic optimization and refinement. Disruptive innovation. Creating new approaches that initially serve different markets but eventually transform entire industries. Breakthrough innovation. Developing solutions that represent fundamental advances in capability or efficiency. Business model innovation. Reimagining how value is created, delivered, and captured, rather than just improving products or services. Social innovation. Creating solutions that address social problems while potentially generating economic value. The research shows that innovation capability correlates strongly with career success and organizational performance across industries. Companies and individuals who consistently generate valuable innovations maintain competitive advantages that are difficult for others to replicate. Elite performers understand that innovation isn't just about having good ideas. It's about developing systematic capabilities for generating, evaluating, and implementing breakthrough solutions. They've learned to think beyond conventional boundaries, while maintaining practical focus on creating real value. This innovation edge becomes increasingly important as the pace of change accelerates. The solutions that work today may be obsolete tomorrow, making the ability to continuously generate new approaches essential for sustained elite performance. Asterisk. The ultimate distinction of elite performers. isn't just what they achieve in their lifetimes, it's the enduring impact they create that continues long after they're gone. While most people focus on immediate results and short-term success, elite minds think in terms of legacy, building performance systems and contributing value that transcends their individual presence. Legacy thinking fundamentally changes how elite performers approach their work, relationships, and development. Instead of asking, "How can I win today?" they ask, "How can I create value that will compound over decades?" This long-term perspective influences every decision and creates a completely different performance paradigm. The psychology of legacy thinking involves several key mental shifts: systems over outcomes. Elite performers focus on building robust systems that generate sustained results rather than optimizing for single achievements. They understand that systems outlast individuals and create compounding value over time, development over achievement. They prioritize developing capabilities, both their own and others, over achieving specific goals, knowing that enhanced capabilities produce multiple achievements across extended periods. Contribution over consumption. Legacy thinkers focus on what they can contribute to their field, organization, or society rather than what they can extract for personal benefit. Principle over tactics. They identify and codify the underlying principles that drive their success, making their insights transferable to others and applicable across different contexts. Teaching over hoarding. Elite performers with legacy orientation actively share their knowledge and develop others, understanding that their impact multiplies when they enable others' success. Legacy-oriented elite performers engage in specific practices that extend their influence. Knowledge documentation. They systematically capture their insights, methodologies, and lessons learned, creating resources that others can use long after they're no longer directly involved. Mentor development. They invest heavily in developing protégés who can carry forward their approaches and insights, essentially extending their impact through other people. System building. They create organizational systems, processes, and cultures that embody their performance principles and continue functioning without their direct involvement. Innovation contribution. They push the boundaries of what's possible in their fields, establishing new benchmarks and possibilities that elevate everyone's performance. Institutional development. They build or strengthen institutions that will continue creating value long after their individual participation ends. The research reveals several characteristics of elite performers who create lasting legacies. Values, clarity. They have clearly defined values that guide their decisions and ensure consistency across different situations and time. Periods, long term. Thinking. They regularly consider the 10, 20, and 50-year implications of their current actions and decisions. Stakeholder integration. They understand how their success impacts multiple stakeholders and work to create shared value rather than zero-sum outcomes. Continuous learning. They maintain beginner's mind throughout their careers, staying curious and adaptable even as they achieve expert status. Authentic leadership. They lead from their genuine strengths and values rather than trying to conform to external expectations of how leaders should behave. Legacy thinking also influences how elite performers handle success and failure. Success. Stewardship. They view their achievements as resources to be stewarded responsibly rather than trophies to be displayed, using success as a platform for creating greater impact. Failure integration. They extract maximum learning from setbacks and share those lessons with others, transforming personal failures into collective wisdom. Transition planning. They actively prepare others to continue their work and maintain the standards they've established, ensuring continuity beyond their individual involvement. Wisdom sharing. They distill their experience into principles and insights that can benefit others facing similar challenges. The practical implementation of legacy thinking includes regular legacy reviews. Elite performers periodically assess whether their current activities align with their long-term legacy intentions, making adjustments to ensure consistency. Succession development. They identify and develop individuals who can maintain or exceed their performance standards in their absence. Knowledge transfer systems. They create formal and informal mechanisms for sharing their expertise and insights with others. Value creation metrics. They measure their success not just by personal achievements, but by the value they create for others and the positive changes they enable. Institutional contribution. They actively participate in building or strengthening the institutions and communities that support their field. Asterisk legacy thinking also influences daily behavior and decision-making. Quality standards. Knowing that their work may influence others for years. Legacy-minded performers maintain exceptional quality standards even when shortcuts might be available. Relationship investment. They build deeper, more meaningful relationships. Understanding that lasting impact often comes through personal connections and influence. Character development. They prioritize character development alongside skill development, knowing that character determines how their capabilities are used. Continuous contribution. They look for ways to add value in every interaction and situation, building a pattern of contribution that becomes their signature approach. Perhaps most importantly, legacy thinking creates meaning that sustains motivation during difficult periods. When elite performers connect their daily efforts to long-term impact, they tap into powerful motivational resources that transcend immediate circumstances. The research shows that individuals who think in legacy terms maintain higher performance levels later in their careers and experience greater life satisfaction. They avoid the burnout and meaninglessness that often afflict high achievers who focus solely on personal accomplishment. Legacy thinking doesn't require sacrificing current performance for future impact. It actually enhances present performance by providing deeper meaning and broader perspective that elevates the quality of daily effort. Elite performers who master legacy thinking create a powerful paradox. By focusing less on their immediate personal success and more on their long-term contribution, they often achieve greater personal success than those who pursue only individual achievement. This is the ultimate performance strategy, building excellence that serves not only your immediate goals, but creates lasting value that continues growing long after your direct involvement ends. Elite performers who master this approach don't just achieve peak performance. They create peak performance systems that elevate entire fields and generations of future performers. You now possess the psychological blueprints used by the world's highest performers. You understand how elite minds think, process information, handle pressure, and create extraordinary results. But knowledge without application is merely interesting. Information and elite performers are defined by their commitment to implementation. The research is unequivocal. Peak performance isn't about genetics, luck, or circumstances. It's about psychology. It's about how you think, how you process challenges, how you relate to pressure, and how you organize your mental resources around achieving meaningful objectives. Every principle in this audiobook has been proven in laboratories, validated in real-world performance, and demonstrated by elite performers across every domain of human achievement. The neuroscience is clear, the psychology is documented, and the strategies are actionable. Asterisk, but here's what separates those who transform their performance from those who simply collect. Interesting concepts. Elite performers don't just learn these principles, they embody them. They don't just understand the psychology of peak performance, they become it. The choice before you is simple but profound. Will you remain a consumer of performance content, or will you become a practitioner of performance psychology? Will you add these insights to your collection of good ideas, or will you systematically Implement them until they become your new cognitive operating system. Asterisk, become your new cognitive operating system. Elite performers share one characteristic above all others. They close the gap between knowing and doing. They take proven principles and turn them into practiced capabilities. They convert understanding into execution. Your elite mind isn't something you hope to develop someday. It's something you can begin building today. Every principle you implement, every mental model you practice, every performance strategy you apply moves you closer to joining the ranks of those who don't just dream about exceptional achievement, they engineer it. The psychology of peak performance isn't theory, it's technology. It's a set of tools that, when properly applied, produces reliable results. The same mental technologies that created the world's greatest achievements are now available to you. The question isn't whether you have the potential to think and perform like an elite mind. The question is whether you have the discipline to develop that potential systematically, consistently, and relentlessly. Your elite mind is waiting. The only question is, are you ready to claim it?